KMS 8th graders, it is Monday, May 11th, and you are watching a screencast for today's lesson on animations. And so I am going to promise to keep this short so that you have a chance to complete the lesson and have a little bit of time for yourself. All that I ask is that you do your best to follow through with the lesson. Know that I'm going to grade it, and it's a continued project, so do your best, and then you can have some time to go back and play your trigger wheels or whatever it is that you do while I'm trying to teach you and you're trying to do other things. Anyhow, if you're in my 7th hour or you were absent on Friday, okay, you got a little bit of catch up to do. It's really quite straightforward. What you must do is first of all quit Chrome. Or at least you don't have to quit, I guess, if you're watching the screencast, but get it out of the way. Get to the Finder and right-click on your desktop and make a folder, okay? And call your folder Basketball 7th Hour or B-Ball 5th Hour. You can see what I've called mine. I've got one for each hour that I've had to do this. So that is the place where you're going to keep your main file and all associated files. If you're in my 7th hour or you're absent on Friday, like I said, you're going to be making a Photoshop file. We're doing an animation project, which is a lot of fun, but at the same time, it's a little bit difficult, a little bit challenging. So you need to have a folder on your desktop with those with it named as such. Okay, and then if you're that person, what you want to do is, by the way, if you're not in the 7th hour or you were here Friday, okay. Just hear me out for a few minutes so I can catch these kids up. But anyhow, what we did Friday is we launched Photoshop Elements, okay? And all I had the kids do was go to File, New Blank File, okay? And I'll pause this as needed, okay, as you catch up with the other kids. And anyhow, in here I had them choose Web, as we always have, but I scaled it back to a 640 by 480, okay? And what we did is we just drew a real basic backyard basketball scene. And I'm going to open the file that we did. Okay. And I would like you, if you're in the 7th hour or you're absent, to create the file that I'm about ready to open. Okay. Now, if you're not in 7th hour, okay, or you were, here Friday, what you would have to do is just go to your folder on your desktop and open your folder up. And then double click your main file, okay, your B-Ball main. You won't get that annoying prompt that I just got. But when you open it, it should open like this. Okay, should look like this. Now, if you're in my 7th hour, all right, you got a really simple task at hand. Draw yourself a horizon line and basically create this very same file that I have, okay? Key points. Put everything in the background layer. All right, draw your little stick man. You're trying to draw a little guy who's going to shoot a basketball at this basketball hoop, okay? But you want your stick man down in the left corner, like I've drawn, and then you want your basketball hoop in the right-hand corner, up at the top. So you need this open space in the middle here. And then once you've done that, then you can continue on with the screencast. Okay. Now at this point, if you've done this file, and you're ready to continue the screencast, here's what we do next. All right, we want to bring in a basketball because the basketball is the only thing that's going to move in this animation in the first frame, okay? And so what I would like to do is, instead of drawing a basketball, I'd like to go out to the internet and grab one. And this is where it gets kind of fun because anything that you want to move must be in its own layer. So rather than draw a basketball in a background, that would be a big mistake. We'd want to draw our basketball in its own layer, or in this case, we want to go out to the internet and grab a basketball that we can just use. So in a Chrome window, I'm going to type in basketball, or maybe Spalding basketball. That was a brand of basketball that we used when I was a kid, Spalding basketball, and just see what we get here. I'm going to do an image search right here. You see where it says images. Any of these would really work, but what I would like is a basketball with a solid white background so I could easily remove the white background. So This spalling would work right here in the first row, the 300 by 200 pixel file. If I can isolate it, let's see what happens when we click on it. When we click on it, we do get a basketball in its own window. And really, from here to get it into your Photoshop file, there's a number of ways to do it. You could, move the window over and simply drag it in, or you could copy paste it. So whatever way you like to do best is up to you. But for me, I'm going to right click on it and choose Copy Image. And that's all I need Chrome to do for me, because after I copy the image, I am going to get Chrome out of the way and click back on my basketball file, and I'm going to go to my Edit menu and choose Paste. And that should paste this basketball into the file as its own layer. See? Proof. There it is. And I don't want the white background around it, so in my toolbox, what I'm going to do is right click on my standard eraser. I don't want to have to erase this, manually, when I can easily right click my eraser tool and choose Magic Eraser Tool. And then all I have to do with that is click on the white part of the basketball, and voila, there goes the annoying white background. Okay, from this point on, this whole activity can be done with the Move tool alone. And what I want you to do is to either hit V for move, or simply click on the Move tool. Take note in your layer palette out here that this is now layer 1. Okay, you could rename it if you wanted to, but for now, I'm going to leave it as layer 1. I'm going to resize it so it looks a little bit more believable. And when you resize it, all you do is you drag a handle like I did, and then you have to hit the green check mark, or like I like to do on the keyboard, you can just hit the return key. So you'll probably hear me hit it, and now that commits that change of size in that layer. And so now we just position this in our little player's hands. Okay, the rest of this activity can be done with one keystroke combination. Okay, to do this, what you must do is hold down the Option key in conjunction with this Move tool. All right, what we're going to try to do is map out the path that this basketball takes in order to go into the basket, drop down, and roll back to our player. All right, so we're going to be making multiple copies of this basketball. And then along the way, what we're going to do is resize it and rotate it in such a way that it looks like it's actually been shot. All right, so to finish this activity, what I'd like to do is take this basketball and duplicate it many, many times. All right, now on your keyboard, before you do this part, look down and find the Option key. Okay, because the Option key is what you must hold down in order to create a clone of this layer. So what I'm going to do is now hold down the Option key, and I'm using my left hand. And when you do that and you put your pointer on the basketball, notice how your cursor changes into a black arrowhead, white arrowhead. All right, that indicates that you're going to be making a copy of that layer as you drag. So if I let go of Option, there goes my indicator. Option key is held down, there's my indicator. All right, what I want you to do is to drag a copy by holding the mouse down with the Option key at the same time, and as you drag, you get another basketball. Okay, now after you've dragged it, I've let go of the mouse and I've let go of the Option key. And I can take this next basketball, take note in your layer palette, you now have 2 layers. And I can move this anywhere I want, but the object of the game here is to try to position this basketball in such a way that it looks like it's been shot and is going towards the basket. Notice as you drag it, it kind of wants to magnetically go to a preset location. And if you don't want that, just let go of the mouse, go to your keyboard, and you have right and left arrow keys, and you can move it just enough how you want it. Okay? Now, those basketball players in the classroom will recognize that when you shoot a basketball, we're trying to arc out a path to make it go in the basket, but it should have counterclockwise rotation. And so when I position it in such a way that it looks like it's going to arc out a path to the basket, okay, not only am I going to position it differently, and don't worry about the overlap, I know it's overlapping the first one, but I'm going to put my pointer on the outside of one of these corner handles, like this one, and I'm going to click and drag counterclockwise because it should have kind of a counterclockwise rotation. And then I'm going to either hit return on the keyboard, or if you like using a mouse, you can hit the check mark. And boom, now I've got 2 layers. I've got the layer 1 where the basketball started, and layer 2 where it's going to take a path to the basket. Okay, Now the rest of this is really straightforward, but yet repetitive and important. Okay, you have to hit Option again with your finger, and then drag another copy of the basketball. All right, and then this is like lather, rinse, repeat with shampoo. I'm going to take this copy, and I'm going to drag it counterclockwise, and so now it looks like the basketball is a little bit further along the path. And if I were to continue this technique, okay, where you drag a copy and you rotate it counterclockwise, don't worry about being perfect. All right, what we're trying to do is trying to arc out a path of this basketball in such a way that it looks like it is on its way to go in the basket. Okay, now the other thing you can do to make it look a little bit more realistic is after you do 5 or 6 of these, you might also want to take a corner handle and resize a little bit smaller. Okay, because if you do that periodically, it'll look like it's actually moving away from you and give it a little bit of perspective. So my path is not perfect. Again, this is a cartoon of sorts, so don't worry about being perfect. All right, it's supposed to be fun, and you might be asking yourself, how many copies of these do I have to make? And you might be asking yourself, hey, is it okay if the basketball kind of leaves a frame like that? Sure it does. Okay, I don't have my basketball fully in the shot. So yeah, it's okay if the basketball leaves the shot as you make these copies. I'm option dragging these one by one and going fast to try to speed up the screencast. How many copies? You should have at least, okay, by the time this is over, 30 different layers. So as you look at my palette, I'm on 16. So I'm a little bit over half. So as I continue its path through the basket, remember, you can use your arrow keys to reposition it just right. Don't worry. I know the basketball doesn't look like it's actually going into the net, but that is a future lesson. That's like a Tuesday lesson. So I've been trying to do this the best I can with the backspin on it and trying to make multiple copies of this. So my basketball is now approaching the ground, and I'm going really fast. Okay, and then when it reaches the ground, I'm going to make a couple more copies and make it look like it is rolling back to our player when this is all done here. So looks like I'm on layer number 27. So this is looking pretty good here. As you do this layer by layer, okay, it's going to take you some effort, but it's repetitive. And don't worry, your neighbor might have something a little bit different, okay? I've had kids make really funny paths to the basket. Some have done a traditional, parabolic shape like I have. I've actually had kids do, like a loop-to-loop with their basketball. You make your basketball look however you want it to look as it goes on its path to go into the basket. But when you finish, you should have at least 30 plus layers. Hopefully you have as many as I do. And when you're finished with this, actually I should have done this earlier. It's too late. But when I go to File Save, that just saves my main file. And really, sports fans, that's all you have to do today. Arc out the path of the basketball on that little path as such, and get at least as many layers as I have. I can't remember even now what I told you. I thought I said 30, but the more layers you have, the cooler your animation is going to be. So get that much done, then you can go out and play your trigger wheels or whatever it is that you do when you have some free time on the computer. And be courteous to my sub, and I really appreciate your attentiveness and your willingness to help one another as needed. I know some of you are more adept at doing this Photoshop stuff than others. So if you are done with yours, or if you're sitting by someone and you see that they're in need, do the right thing and stop your screencast and help them out. I really appreciate that. That speaks highly of those who are willing to serve others. So anyhow, when I'm all done, I'm going to save it. Well, I really can't save mine because I've already saved it. I don't have any more saves to make, but I can quit. And I will see you cats on Tuesday. That's all she wrote. Good job.